now we have the three ladies presentation. They are do the very good peace job, and then for the justice. The first one is there are the three ladies here, and then we have met before. And then the first one is today the afternoon topic is a community building experience. Bidyut MOHANTY. Dr. Bidyut MOHANTY is the head Women's Studies Unit of the Institute. She has been engaged in researching on and capacity building of rural women representatives in Panchayat rural councils. For the past 25 years, she has authored a series of books on women's empowerment and Panchayat rep. Her recent book is Local Governance in Search for a New Path, a study of a civil society engagement with grassroots governance. Cecile MUKARUBUGA, okay. From 2006 to 2009, she was UN Women Regional Director for Western and Central Africa. She is a UN FPA representative in Togo and a member of a Coalition for Peace in Africa, the short form is COPA. She has published various books and articles on the subject of peace and conflict transformation. Also, she is the board members of PeaceWomen Across the Globe, Africa Sustainability Center, and Green Village Foundation. The last one, Marina PIKULINA. She works in the field of peace and justice. Since 2013, she has been a member of the Network of Refugees' Rights in Israel. She has worked with the women's organizations in Afghanistan for 2002 to 2007. She was the country coordinator for Uzbekistan and GACACA for the Sweet Peace Early Warning Program, FAST International. She served as director of the non-governmental analysis groups, monitor and provides educational gender programs for women in the Mahala Social and Welfare Fund at the Center for Research on Islam Studies in Takan, Uzbekistan. Okay.
Until 4:30, we had serious debates as to what is common. Now again I am talking about community governance, how women coming together to govern themselves and govern the panchayat. You know, panchayat is the assembly of various villages. I'll talk more about it later on. How through decentralization, the community governance operates and tries to empower women. Now, there are some constitutional guarantees of political representation, and I have formulated like this. It's an Indian path of women's empowerment, its capacity and limits. Now, what is the context? Everybody knows that India, China have high rate of growth, economic growth, ranging from 7 to 9%. And there is also a program now, Make in India, that is, the present regime slogan. And that earlier, it used to be elephant walking slowly. It is replaced by lion, roaring lion, which is comparable to dragon. But along with that, along the roaring lion, what we see in the reality, that is high magnitude of poverty, inequality, among class, caste, ethnic, gender, region. And our focus is on persisting gender inequality and sexual violence. This is what we are focusing on. Now, two important measures have been taken up to address this issue. One is statutory political representation and policy of Livelihood Mission. They are very important, both of them. One is political and the other one is, economic. Now my argument is that major initiative, with significant effects, but still inadequate. Why? Because of preoccupation, underline, preoccupation with economic growth and lack of a holistic perspective. That's why, there's limitations. Now, what is political women's representation in local bodies? Now, 73rd Constitution Amendment Act, 1993, had the statutory representation of not less than 33% women in local government councils, both as members and leaders. Now it has been raised to 50% in many Indian states. Now what is the result? At least 1 million elected women with 5-year term, they get elected. And, along with that, at least 2 million women become contestants. So altogether, 3 million women come to know about politics. Now 25 years have passed, 1993, and now we are in 2018. 25 years have passed, and they have this grassroots political experience. It has become a catalyst for many new currents of change. But what happens? Patriarchy largely persists. While the draft law of quota in parliament and state assemblies still being debated, they are yet to give in quota in higher tiers of political institutions, though they deserve it. Now, what is Livelihood Mission? I think everybody must be aware of UNICEF's experiment in Bangladesh, Grameen Bank. We also have that, much before UNU started, we started this, in different forms. So there are multiple programs, and it got, changed over the time. Now at present, there is this microcredit program or livelihood mission with self-help groups, and it also has 25 years of experience, and there are mixed results. What happens here? Well, I have discussed that. What happens first? A group of women come together and they save little bit of their own saving. Then the bank or the government or even international bodies, sometimes World Bank, Ford Foundation, UN Women, they give loans to these women through proper channel. And so these are actually, it's a homogeneous women, category of women in the sense that they have similar kind of social bond. They have a social bond, they have similar kind of skill, local skill to weave baskets or beekeeping or various types of things. So they come together and then and they start micro enterprises such as beekeeping, goat raising, paddy husking, etc., etc. And what happens? What is the number? India being billion plus, everything runs into million. Now, in terms of absolute numbers, 1 million women self-help group members have been formed so far. Maybe there are some defunct members, but in terms of number, it is quite impressive. So, the panchayat women leaders, a large number of women, and also the 1 million self-help group members, due to microcredit livelihood mission. Altogether 16 million, it may be more, million women are interacting in public arena. In a way, many people think that it has created a silent revolution. Because so many women interacting in the public arena must have created a ripple effect, various ripple effects, at least in the minds of the patriarchs. So women come from, what are the strengths and challenges? Women come from different backgrounds, and so not so homogeneous, those who are interacting. Hence, some women emerge as the real grassroots leaders. In other words, those who are getting elected, so majority of them are first timers. But also women's literacy has increased. Many women are working in social movements, and many women are coming from the professional class. So when they get elected, plus some of the successful microcredit workers. So they are, among them, when they get elected as panchayat leaders, so they they become leaders in real sense. Now, but what happens at the same time, we should not gloss over the weaknesses of these measures. Many other women just succumb to the social and family pressures and remain invisible. In this context, I must tell you that after the women's quota, women got political representation. A term was coined called Sarpanch Pati. Sarpanch is the chief of panchayat, the local, at the panchayat level, president. And when woman becomes chief, her husband takes over. She goes back to background, and Pati is husband. So a term got coined, Sarpanch Pati. But at the same time, there were other terms. They call me member sahib. Member sahib, in the sense, member is member, of course, member of panchayat. Sahib is a colonial term. The Indian servants or the bureaucrats, Indian bureaucrats, used to address their English masters as Sahib. So then, those who got elected, some of them became so aware of their position that they call me member Sahib. You cannot challenge me. So this kind of awareness and both the things were happening. But this is not substantive empowerment. It is just the first step towards empowerment. But there are also substantive empowerment, again with limited sense, how it has happened. Now, see, what has happened, first of all, in spite of being leaders, they are still subjected to various types of violence, including sex-related abortions. You know about girl child being, exterminated even from the womb. Why? They are political leaders, they are economic leaders. Why their rights are not recognized? Why girl child doesn't have right to live? So, there are limitations. So let us see under what conditions they have emerged as leaders. So some signs of hope. I am an optimist, and my husband always tells, don't be so optimistic. There are long ways to go. Of course, there is a long way to go, but there is a hope now. Now, in many places, what has happened, see, there are two arenas. One is microcredit arena, and many women are working. Not all women are, successful microcredit workers. You must have read Bangladesh experience and crisis in microcredit experience in Andhra. Many women committed suicide at that time. I think 2010, 2011, and things changed. But many women, entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs, they try to contest, or they are requested by their villagers to contest the election, panchayat election, and they come to the other arena, the local government arena, and they contest. So that's a synergy between microcredit groups and the panchayat groups. So what happens? So she becomes the leader, and these women self-help groups, they form, of course, a women's collective, and they give her support, to speak in the panchayat, to take up the issues in the panchayat. I must tell you a little bit more about panchayat, because you are not aware about panchayat. Panchayat is okay. Anyway, my documentary film will tell you about what is panchayat. So then I'm coming to the very end. So there, many leaders have emerged, but there are three absences. This is very important. Powerful political organization of women, it is absent. Then land rights and other productive resources, it is also lacking. Further, it is very, very important for me, weak challenge to patriarchal culture. Unless we address this issue, nothing can move. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the organizer of this forum, especially Kinchi, for your continued commitment to the cause of the most vulnerable. Thank you very much for having me here. We all know, we all agree that overcoming poverty, attaining social justice, sustainability in all its form can seem impossible from the perspective of an individual. But even the impossible can become a reality if it's confronted by a committed and strong community. As evidenced by several experiences, some of them that were shared in this gathering, community building or community strengthening is very critical to cope with hard situations, such as recovering from war, such as the existing exploitation, the existing destruction of one's identity or collective property, as well as all the challenges caused by the evolution of with regard of the globalization effects. I have been requested to share an experience of community building. I've chosen one experience from my country, Rwanda. Rwanda is a small country, 26 square kilometers, with a population or approaching 12 million. Rwanda is not very well known. It used not to be well known, but unfortunately it was international known in 1994 because of the genocide against the Tutsi. That was a traumatic experience in Rwanda, that resulted in more of 1 million killed within just 3 months. It was a traumatic experience because the killing was happening between neighbors, between people who have been living together for years and for years. I will not go into the explanation or the analysis of the genocide. It's going to take hours and hours. Even though the tragedy lasted 100 days, the consequences of the social fabric were catastrophic. The society was completely torn by hatred. The people from different ethnic background could barely talk to each other. The new government who took over right after the genocide in July 1994, has taken different measures to try to rebuild the society, as well as making sure that the restorative justice is taking place. Among those measures, the most innovative was a transitional justice system called GACACA. It was indeed an ambitious justice system, ambitious justice and the reconciliation process. The GACACA in my language, in Kinyarwanda, means a bed of soft grass on which people in ancient traditions, community and the leaders and all the community used to stay, to sit, and to try to solve the problem, the conflict within the society. But those GACACA court in traditional setting used to settle minor issues such as land, marital, interpersonal problem, and so on. And it took place outdoors. And the system was based on voluntary confessions and the apology for those who have been committed offenses. Among GACACA is in a tandem with African concept of Ubuntu that Professor MOHANTY explained this morning. Ubuntu translates to human solidarity, he said it this morning. And Ubuntu aims to create an environment where people can recognize that the humanity is inextricably bound up in the humanity of others. Ubuntu also encourages people to see beyond the crimes of the perpetrators, those who committed the offenses, the crimes, and to integrate them back into the society. When the government took power in 1994, after ending the genocide, it was confronted by the need to deliver justice for killings of more than 1 million people within 3 months. It was also confronted with the need to rebuild the social fabric and reconcile the different components of the society. The challenge would have been overwhelming even for the world's most developed countries or system. In Rwanda, the task was made even more difficult because the genocide had killed many judges and other judicial staff and had destroyed the judicial system infrastructure. After a few months after the genocide, Rwanda prisons were bursting at the seams with the genocide suspects. By 4 years after the genocide, around 130,000 prisoners were in prisons in a space meant for only 12,000 people. So you can understand how overcrowded the prisons were. The conventional court began trying genocide case in 1996, 2 years after the genocide, but had only managed 2 years later to try 1,200. At that rate, genocide trial would have continued for more than a century. The process could have been accelerated if by foreign lawyers and judges to be brought in to help in Rwanda, but the Rwanda government rejected the proposal. So what was the only option left was that to address the issue of justice, to bring the reconciliation among the community, Rwanda government had to reestablish the traditional court system, those GACACA. The GACACA system was working in the period before the colonization, that they were no longer in place. So there was no other option that was left to Rwanda government than establishing the community court. These community-based courts were set up to try the genocide-related crimes using the GACACA system. And the system was based, the objective of the court, I forgot to say that they were just based on starting from the smallest administrative entity of the community, and then around 12,000 million, let me check exactly the number of the court that was established, but it went to as far as the smallest community, the administrative community. The objective was to establish the truth of what happened, to accelerate the legal proceedings, eradicate impunity, and reconcile Rwandan. There were 12,000 GACACA code established in the whole country, and within they were established in 2002, and they closed in 2012 for 10 years. So those GACACA, the 12,000, were managed to try more than 1.2 million of suspects. So the achievement, what you can say as achievement, when the people do the analysis or those courts, there is a mix of assessment. That it's understandable because they didn't have the capacity to address the crime against humanity. But at least we can recognize that there were so many achievements in different areas. The Center for Conflict Management and the National University of Rwanda carried out a study to assess the results of those courts. So it was found out that telling the truth was achieved at 83.5%. The speeding up the genocide trials was achieved at 87%. Strengthening unity and reconciliation was at 87%. And so the overall percentage of the study was 87% achievement. But most of the people who participate in GACACA court state that those courts have paved the way of reconciliation among Rwandans. Another outcome of the GACACA court is the fact that the perpetrators cooperated by telling the truth to the survivors, so that the survivors can know where the disease relative bodies could be found, and then they can bury them in dignity. What lesson can we get from that system? One is that the GACACA process court not only did it address the enormous backlog of the genocide-related cases, but contributed to reducing prison overcrowding, and certainly contributed to peace and reconciliation. Establishing the GACACA is the recognition of the community values, the community capacity, and the community system as related to justice and reconciliation. The GACACA process was at the same time a healing process for both genocide perpetrators and victims through the adoption of the principles of truth-telling, repentance and forgiveness, and reconciliation. The challenge of integrating traditional justice mechanism into broader reconciliation and transitional justice requires imagination, wide consultation, consensus, and the building capacity. Community-based mechanisms are more sustainable and efficient in restoring broken community relations. When adopting or promoting traditional-based or community-based mechanisms and practices as part of a national justice strategy, we have to be aware that they should ideally serve as a complement to official justice structures, as opposed to being brought into the control. So as a conclusion, and trying to link this experience to the discussion we have been having for the last 2-3 days, I was wondering whether we can consider if our community embedded or inspired system can work better for our community. Then we should ask ourselves the following questions. Should we refuse the civilization in its form as of now and go back to our traditional values and systems? Should we strike a balance between the effects of globalization or imposed systems and our own values and get a balance? Rehabilitating our systems and practices wouldn't be a way of decolonizing our mind. Thank you very much for your attention.
I would like to present a report about Kibbutz experience in Israel. Kibbutz is a small community of farmers. Wikipedia defines the kibbutz as an agricultural commune characterized by a common property and equality in labor and consumption. The kibbutz movement organized from the first wave of Aliyah or repatriation to the land of Israel in the period of Ottoman Empire region. It was in the beginning of 20th century in 1914. The whole period until 1948 was the most active in the creation. After 1948, the kibbutz movement has been slowing down, and now it has stopped, almost stopped at all, remaining at the position of 1989. We can to the you can define three kinds of kibbutz: community kibbutz, traditional form, updates kibbutz, only partial socialization, and city kibbutz that involved in the city infrastructure. Now they have also religious kibbutz that based on the religious ideology. Kibbutz has become the initiative of the youngsters which came to the promised land. For the most part, these were young men and women from Eastern Europe, many of whom were close to the idea of a just society, which were consistent with the idea of Jewish prophets, thinkers, and philosophers of the socially just society. Moreover, the young people saw in agriculture work a pledge of revival and development of the Jewish people. And also modern kibbutz differ from one another. Youth associations were based on general principles at the beginning. The first and most important thing is the principle of collective ownership of property, equality in rights, in freedom, in observance of a certain discipline, and in the consumption of means necessary for everyone for development and for life. This slide presented first kibbutz in Israel, Dgania, near the Tveria, Galilee Sea. The role of kibbutz in the creation of Israel's statehood was really significant, and the most important task was to create a class of farmers which would be able to provide all Jewish population of the country with all necessary agricultural production. Israel kibbutz did it perfectly. In a relatively short period of time, new repatriants, new residents of kibbutz, only a part of whom received special education and training in special farms, have created a powerful and highly productive agriculture in Israel, which in terms of productivity and product quality is just as well as that one as the countries with developed centuries-old tradition of farming. Number of years association believed that it's better. Number of years association believed that it's better if children live brought up and get full nutrition and education at a local kibbutz school, see parents on weekends, and are taught by qualified teachers like around-the-clock kindergartens or extended day schools. The commune, which arose in 1910 near the Lake Kinneret, later called Dgania, which means wet, is considered to be the first kibbutz. The national condition of life in it were heaviest. They live in tents, worked hard from dawn to dark, and had more than scanty food. All this was aggravated by attack of Arabs on Jew settlement in Palestine. Therefore, the kibbutz member had to divert forces and resource for the creation of self-defense units and the construction of defensive structures. Women in kibbutz were equal in right with men. All money which was earned were spent primarily on public needs, and then it covered the expenses of the kibbutz members. From the point of view of labor, everything turned to be extremely difficult too, because to turn a lifeless desert to a fruitful garden is a difficult task even for experienced agronomists. They are young men and women, many of whom knew about agriculture only by hearsay, came to work. Nevertheless, according to the official data, more than 115,000 people lived in kibbutz. To get to the kibbutz is not difficult. There are no special criteria of selection. You should be no older than 35 years, submit your application to the secretariat, and be a candidate for the membership of the kibbutz for 1 or 3 years. As rule, there is a common canteen in kibbutz, and member of kibbutz don't need to cook food and to buy goods. There are also free libraries and laundries. Gas, electricity, water are paid from the common money, and there is no need to concern about municipal service. Some kibbutz buy common cars, and kibbutz member can use it for trip outside and for the personal needs. Gas and car maintenance are paid from the common money. Questions of cultural are decided on the common meetings. A common can invite artists, singers, musicians, and pay for the concert at the festival days. There are some kibbutz that pay for high and special education for their members, if professions are useful for kibbutz. For example, if they need teachers, agronomists, engineers, or mechanics, they paid for education. Kibbutz can pay for education in this field according to the decision of common meeting. Many pensioners, kibbutz pay pension to the pensioners, and many pensioners refused from the pensions and continue to work in kibbutz. There is an acute issue of accommodation in kibbutz. Theoretically, kibbutz must give a place to live to a new member, but it's not always possible. So kibbutz give a land piece for a member to build house by own. Many members work in the sphere of agriculture. There is also the possibility to work in other cities, settlements, and also travel around the country. But all money they have to give to the common case. The difference is just, in fact, that salary goes for the common account. I said it. A part of salary people received on the hand and can spend outside of kibbutz. Rigid competition in the production agricultural products makes kibbutz expand the sphere of activity and create industrial production. Currently, kibbutz are engaged in production of baby foods, various packaging, water filters, dishes, plastic products, and many other goods. There are kibbutz that specialize on recycling garbage and have profit from it. This is especially good for city kibbutz that involved in city infrastructure. There are kibbutz that build hotels and houses for tourists because it's very demanded on the market. This is the first kibbutz, and because it was recognized by the Soviet Union, they celebrated Soviet celebrations. So it was the 1st of May. So, next. And this is the first kibbutz that was created by Jews from Arabic countries, expelling from Arabic countries. It was very poor population, and a kibbutz was a good possibility for survival. This is a modern kibbutz now. Next. Ecological kibbutz. It's good for tourists. Equipment for kibbutz. Okay. Kibbutz management carried out by the chairman, who is elected at the general meeting. At the general meeting, the work among the members of kibbutz also distributed. The work is constantly changing, and every member of kibbutz can work today in the barn and tomorrow to the gathering of fruits and vegetables, or in dining room or cleaning. There is no possibility to refuse. Kibbutz was created against a background of general poverty. The common economy and joint labor help to survive in difficult economic conditions. At present, with the growth of prosperity and economic development, young people leave the kibbutz and prefer to live independently. Some prefer to dispose of their own money and work where they want. In addition, the growth of competition leads to the reign of kibbutz, and their member is decreasing. But I want to add that 10 years ago, it was created first Arab kibbutz for the poor Arab peasants, and it was very successful experience. This is mixed kibbutz, mixed. Arab and Jews, which created kibbutz together. It wasn't in practice before, but now it's appeared too. And they also have possibility to invite foreign workers from abroad. Here, Filipinos is very popular in Israel, kibbutz. And this is kibbutz in desert. It's also very popular because to cultivate deserts with the new technology is a big task. And a small kibbutz implements this task very successfully. It's not big kibbutz, only 5-10 houses, and they planted small piece of land. Thank you.